G'day and welcome to Insights and Storytellings with me, Moon Willow. I'm hoping tonight that you're actually still hearing me at this moment because yesterday's, as you've probably guessed for those that you've tried to watch it, I got as far as g'day and welcome, and then my voice cut out for the remainder of the video. So it seems that the energies have got a new way of preventing me from putting these out, whereas previously it was a case that it only partially recorded. Well, I thought it partially recorded, but I found out a week and a half ago, that by still putting it up, that you could actually hear the whole of the story. So it's almost like there's a new gremlin in the works, as it were, to, for some reason, not allow some of my storytellings to go out. And I really can't make head nor tail of it. It could be madness making trying to figure it out as well. So I am going to put it down and just hope that today's at least I managed to record it and that it manages to go out properly and fully. But time will tell. So yesterday anyway, a lot of the reading was around sort of noticing that I was beginning to feel a lot brighter and lighter. It was like there was a shift of energies, and for things feeling better and more able to tap into the higher energies and the higher frequencies, and just sort of stay above sort of that darker elements, and just was looking at sort of how during those moments where we are feeling lighter and brighter, noticing what continues to make us feel, how we express ourselves during those moments. I noticed for myself that I was singing more often and was dancing more often, and just that sort of helped encourage my experience of those higher, lighter frequencies to continue to energize me and move through and above sort of the darker elements. I'm also very aware that this week, in a couple of days in fact, that we are getting another full moon, and I'm not sure whether this is actually the first full moon of this year or not. I have a feeling it is. And the full moon energy is very much about continuing to draw back the veils and really seeing beneath the surface, and knowing that what I've already seen beneath the surface in the past sort of 12 months or so can be quite depressing and can produce cognitive dissonance. And it's difficult to sort of accept some of the things that I have found, witnessed, seen, discovered, been shown, and that can become quite overwhelming. And there's still certain bits of it that I literally want to put my fingers in my ears and go la la la, so that I don't notice it. But I'm quite conscious that the full moon this week will most likely show more and bring more to light. And it's really useful. Useful is probably not the right word, but beneficial and encouraging. That at the moment there seems to be that increase in frequency, increase in light, and I'm trying to utilize that by just absorbing as much of that as possible and recharging my batteries with it. And as I say, noticing how I sort of grab hold of that and increase that feeling of vibrational energy within me, as I say, through singing and dancing. So I think this is a useful time to notice how you're responding to a lightness of touch and that lighter energies, and how you're expressing them. So that I have a feeling sort of it's not going to be too long where we sort of get plunged back into a darker element and sort of feelings of oppressiveness. So it's very useful, and what I'm going to try and do myself is hold back onto those moments in the lightness and use the singing and the dancing just to keep myself buoyant. So yeah, we'll see which crystal comes out now to sort of go with this, and see what chakra today wants to be heard. Ooh, okay, well, I am going to incorporate the other one that literally flew out. So we've got solidite for the root, and then we've also got, it literally jumped out of the bag, citrine for the solar plexus, our power center. So yesterday when I did do a reading, it was around the solar plexus, and the reading I did the day before, I believe, was around the root, and it's looking at how to connect those two. So very much anchoring and grounding into ourselves, grounding into earth underneath, seeing the roots of where we make sense, or how we make sense of our lives. Where have we got our ideas from? Is it from our ancestors? Is it from our society? Schooling? Is it from friends around us? Is it from the media? Really stepping back and having a look at where all this information is coming from, that helps form how we feel and how we react and respond to things as they get thrown at us. What is it that makes us feel wobbled? How are we thrown off center? Because there'll be days where you'll be pottering along quite nicely, and then all of a sudden it'll feel like all of a sudden you've had a shift in energy and you're feeling really good or feeling really bad. It works both ways. It works all ways. And it's really stopping and centering and really having a look at what is it about that particular moment that changed the way you feel. So from a lighter perspective, it may have been that you've seen a sunset or a bird, or someone you love just sent you a message, and that created an emotional response that helped you feel better. Or it might have been that you ran into someone who questioned the way you were walking through your life, that a sudden rain cloud came over and covered you with rain, and that made you feel unwelcome or wet, miserable. You may have got a bill through the post, and that brought you down and made you realise that you haven't got enough money. It's those sort of things, but it's noticing that and sort of what level of attachment have you got to that particular episode or incident, and how can you hold being okay through it on those sort of more darker ones, and sort of how much have you funded it into there. It's how much are you stopping your life going forward because an outside force has told you can't do something. How's that made you feel? And conversely, they may have suddenly given you permission to do something that you've really wanted to do, and your emotional response is linked into that. It's really important to sort of bring it back and really notice where your anchor points are, so that you're not, as I've said this in the past, not beholden to other people or other circumstances as to how you're feeling. That actually you have a sense of self and sense of anchor points and sense of centering as to who you are, no matter what's thrown at you. So you know how to come back home. You know how to come back to who you are. I'm hoping this is making sense. So that's, for me, what the root is about at the moment. And then the solar plexus is our power center. And we are all powerful beings. And we have got the power to choose the way we live our lives. And that's how we get empowerment as well. It's also useful to know where your energetic boundaries are and put power behind that as well, so that you notice when someone or an idea or something, when it comes in too close, you notice it far enough away so that you can deal with it without having that initial thrust of an emotional response to it and then having to undo it. So it's further away, and you can allow what you would like to come in, and holding your boundaries around you so that you can continue to grow and nurture how you're rooted, how you're centered in who you are and how you're going forward. So I'm going to see what cards pop out, see whether they literally pop out or whether they want to do the traditional method of being split. I can never know. Okay, that one flew out, so we'll go with that one first. That one flew out. Everything's flying tonight. But I don't know whether that's an indication that this is actually going to go up properly. Who knows? I'm working on the understanding that it will. Okay, I don't think a third one's going to fly out somehow. So all I'm going to do is just pull one from there. And the 3 cards is the book and child and the horse. So the book for me is very much that the key to understanding ourselves and the world around us is that we have the information within. Okay. So I've just been reminded of codices and codexes and a way of understanding the information. So it's like you have the information within. You know that there's a book, you know that there is a way to read the information to gain deeper understanding, deeper connection with yourself, connection with the earth, connection into how you power forward, how to bring your focus into what it is you want to achieve. And it sort of feels like it's just beyond your grasp, that it's just out. It's like you've got that underlying sense that you know what you want to be doing, you know where you're going, sorta. You know you've got the information, but you're looking for the key. Yeah. And it's not a key as in a door key. It doesn't feel like that. It's almost like it's now finding the Rosetta Stone. So the Rosetta Stone purportedly was used to decrypt hieroglyphics in Egypt. And that to me is a codex. It's a way of reading what's already there. And your Rosetta Stone is already within you, but it's hidden. And it's been messed up. It's going back to what I was saying in really seeing where the initial roots of the information came from. What stories were we told initially that was inferred, spoken about, implied, which is the same as inferred, I know, from previous people in our lives, from the society we were born into, the exact space and place we were born into, the family we were born into, that brought about a lot of extraneous information. And we absorb that. When we're really young, we absorb that without realizing. And we then create this story around us, this book, this internal book, that feels like that is the only way to live our lives, that we have to live our lives in a certain way because that's the key we were already given. So it's almost like we're born with, I know I've said in the past we're not born with a set of instructions, but it's almost like we've come down with a complete story of our lives. And part of it is about unraveling and learning how to read that information. And part of our journey when we're younger is that certain ways of reading it, the lenses that we're given to use to read the information. So it's like having magical glasses to be able to read it. But the lenses that we're given in the first place are skewed. They're not quite the right ones for us to read it because they've got layers over them. So it's almost like the masks that we're given sometimes. But they've got layers over these glasses, and one of the filters for that would be the colour of our skin, the place that we were born, the religion or lack of religion that we were born into, the level of awareness, whether knowledge is valued over knowledge intelligence is valued over emotional intelligence, that creativity is disregarded, or creativity is highly valued but you don't feel like you have any, or you can't measure up to it. So it's like we're given lots and lots and lots of different filters to read our own internal books. And every now and again we walk out there or we meet someone who takes off one of the filters for us to be able to read our own truth, to read our own book, to read our own heart, to read our own authenticity, to understand that we have the power to create our own world, and understand that we have the power to read our own internal book, our own internal truth. But part of the problem with that is that more often than not, as one set of visors filter is taken off, sometimes we're so thankful that we end up putting that person's filter back over our glasses. So although we may be able to read our book and understand ourselves a little bit more, or sometimes a lot more, it's still done through the filter of somebody else. So it's about really connecting internally into our root system, grounding, sitting in front of our book, understanding that we have the power to read our own book. We have the tools to be able to trust ourselves, to realize that who we are authentically. It is good and sometimes very useful to borrow a filter from someone else just to get a slightly different take on it, but recognizing that belongs to somebody else, that's not ours, so giving them back. And actually being aware that one of those may actually highlight the page in the book that actually is the codex, is the key to be able to read what's authentically ours, what is the truth of us. And I think that the child in this reading is about is more to do with like being a toddler at this point, is where it's almost like toddlers learning to walk and all over the place and needing the support of their parents, support of their community to remain safe. And that's important so that we can be here now to do this work. But there needs to be a time where, as toddlers are learning to walk, the parents must let go to allow that child to fall down, to be able to stand back up on their own 2 feet, literally. So it's almost like now is the time to let go of some of the support structures and trust ourselves, trust that we have the knowledge, that we have the power to do this ourselves, to look and see the key that's already there, to find the codex, to find our own Rosetta Stone so that we can interpret. And the thing with the Rosetta Stone, which is a perfect analogy, I think, for this, is that it had, if you've ever seen it, it has different scripts. It has different writings from different ages that led people to read hieroglyphs. It wasn't straight, for really poor analogy, but bear with me, that it doesn't go straight from English to hieroglyphs. There's a lot of steps in between. So each different expert, or one expert one person who knew and understood a lot of different languages, was able to utilize this knowledge to actually read through to understand hieroglyphs and then put it back into English. And it's almost that's what's happening with each teacher we come across, with each person who helps us along our way, and that help can come in different guises. It can actually be felt as a hindrance or painful or trauma at the time, but actually it's a great learning curve. And we learn a lot more about ourselves sometimes in those more painful moments than in the lighter moments. So it's really understanding that and taking that step back and looking at the keys that we already have, the information we've already got, and try each different filter. And it might be a combination of filters to actually see clearly. And I'm reminded at the moment that people with dyslexia, if they really struggle to read, they're giving different colours of paper to make the words seem clearer. So sometimes it's a case of having glasses, proper reading glasses with a rose tint or a blue tint. And other people, it's pieces of plastic sheets. And it could be like a combination of a blue and a green combined together, means that they can read the text, a black and white text, and make sense of it. So it's almost like that's what's happening for us at the moment, is that we have a blurry book. We're aware that the book's there. We've used other people's filters, or we've had filters given to us that we've been able to read it, but we've only been able to read the information in a certain way, which ends up putting more stress on us, or we end up feeling like we're not living up to other people's expectations, that we're missing the point, that we're unworthy, that we're not good enough, all of that, which doesn't necessarily come from, it doesn't come from us. That comes from other people, community, society. If we go out of society's norms, whoever created the norms, I'm never too clear on that. But if we go outside of that, there is a huge pressure, an emotional pressure, a financial pressure. There is a huge pressure to follow the crowd, to follow that main storyline. So it's finding what's comfortable for us and really taking off those filters and seeing where those filters came from. Okay, I got that filter from my dad. I got that filter from my mum. That was from great Henry so-and-so. That was that's a guilt and a shame that's been handed down from generations because poor Fred Bloggs made a mistake and decided that he wanted money to feed his family, so stole a loaf of bread and got sent to Australia. There are a lot of stories for each family, for each one of us. There are loads of stories that are entwined in our heritage, in who we are, without us really being aware of it, because it's never really spoken about. So we inadvertently take that on board and try and live up or live down or live through or hold somebody else's guilt, shame, whatever. And we forget to see what resonates for us. We forget to, we're not encouraged to find what's right for us or who we are, or find our own Rosetta Stone for our own story, for our own book. But what's coming through with the crystals is that we have, with the solidite and the root chakra, is that if we ground into earth and ground into ourselves and fully feel ourselves, fully connect with ourselves, and sit with ourselves, even though that is more often than not uncomfortable, it's also then recognizing that we have got the power and the ability from our solar plexus to actually sit and navigate this and work through this. But also at the same time, we also have the power to hold our protections up and prevent anything else coming in. That we actually, I mean, I've spoken in previous storytellings about how I imagine a rose bush around me, so that as things come in, words come in, that I capture them before they actually enter fully into my physical being or energetic being, depending on which way you want to look at it. And I can become aware of it before it comes in. Now, there are a lot of days when I'm not very good at that, and other days where I am good at it, but it's about, at the moment, really having a look at your protections, having a look at how shielded you are from everything that's going off around you. And sometimes when the energies are really good, when the energies are feeling higher and lighter, we do have a habit of putting our guard down. And it's not to say that we shouldn't relax, because we really should. But it's also good to be aware that this is not over. And as the moon comes into the fullness in a couple of days' time, I have a feeling that more information is going to come through. And unless we actually have taken this lull, this moment where energies are higher, to recharge our batteries and really have a look at our shields and protection and how we've layered up around ourselves, that we could feel knocked over the next week or so. And there's a difference between a toddler learning to walk on their own, falling down and standing back up, and a toddler being pushed over by an inattentive adult around them, because the damage could be quite significant. So it's really having a look at that and being aware that this is new, that we're finding this information out. Some of us, it's new information. Some of us, it'll be well established and well known, but it doesn't hurt to rehear it and really having a look at our boundaries. And as I say, noticing over the past few days where the energy's lighter, what sort of made us feel happier, what's brought us down a bit, what's produced anxiety, what's produced fear, so that we can actually notice it, so that as it comes closer again, we can actually protect ourselves. If it's something that's really lovely and brings up our energy, allow it to come in almost straight away. But again, sort of giving it that few heartbeats before it comes in and enters, because we can be overwhelmed with euphoria and happiness and lightness just as much as sort of the darker energies as well. It's all about balance. The key is balance. Which brings me to the last card, which isn't about balance really, but all of it is about balance and finding ourselves and holding ourselves. So as we begin to find our own Rosetta Stone and read our own story, our own authentic truth, and remembering as we do that, that is always done with compassion and unconditional love, and recognizing that there are times when we may have felt hoodwinked or taken advantage of, or being given a filter that was really inappropriate for us, that we were doing the best we could at those times. And then as we've recognized the hurts a bit quicker, or the feelings of not rightness a lot quicker, and stopped it. And I feel that all this is bringing us into the rider. Now this, at the moment for me, is what it's saying is about being our own knight in shining armor. As tempting as it is, nobody else can live our lives for us. That's why we came down here. We chose to come down and have free will. We chose to be here at this moment, at this time. No matter what stories we tell ourselves, there is an underlying bit of that for me anyway. But we don't need rescuing from other people. We can, as I say, we can borrow filters from other people so that we can read our own stories a little bit clearer, or by hearing somebody else's story that might help us find that next layer, that next part of information on the Rosetta Stone, so that we can read our own writing, basically. It might be that someone's turned up with the 2 sheets of colours that we need to be able to read the text clearly. They're not reading it for us. They're just providing us with the equipment to use to be able to read it ourselves, because we have all that knowledge and power within. And if we end up waiting for somebody else to rescue us, we could invariably die bitter and lonely and dark. But if we see that we are responsible and we take the time to learn who we are, what resonates properly for us, and figure out that we hold the knowledge, we hold the power to who we truly are, to our authentic selves, that will then help us take us into the other aspect of this particular card, and start travelling the next bit of our journey. We rescue ourselves and ride off, not in the sunset though, although sometimes that would be nice, but it is remembering to not give away our power to somebody else, to put our roots into earth, find our own balance, find our own key. And as I say, that's not to say we're doing this in isolation and we're not alone, that someone may be able to give us a filter so that we can actually read the writing clearer, but it's still us reading the writing. So, I hope that makes sense. And as I say, I'm hoping this has recorded the sound all the way through. I'm hoping that this has recorded the image all the way through. So that I'll be able to put it up. So, as I say, I hope this resonates. I'm going to see what sound comes through for us tonight. I've got root and citrine, but I don't think I haven't, not intentionally, I haven't worked out how to hold my voice on 2 levels at the same time. But anyway. So thank you very much for joining me. I do really enjoy the fact that you are all contributing your energies to this. So take care of yourselves, stay safe, love you all. Bye for now.